Great. I think we're live.
I think we're live.
Great to see everyone out there. Before we kick off, I've worked with hundreds of startups over the years, and I know my companions on stage have too, so I'll just have them do a quick intro. Julie, you want to go first?
Yeah, thanks, Alice. Hi, everyone. I'm Julie Choi. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of a company called Cerebras Systems. We make the largest chip in the world, which I've brought today for everyone to behold. And this is about anywhere from 20 to 100 times faster than NVIDIA. And really looking forward to sharing how we market, not only here, but at other experiences that I've had.
Super.
Thank you.
And I'm Allison Braley. I'm a partner, and I lead marketing for Bain Capital Ventures, and I help startups all across the ecosystem tell their stories. So yeah, very excited to be here.
Great. So the ever-present AI, it's everywhere. We're here to talk about marketing, and what really interests me is, particularly with startups, like how is it helping? Is it hurting? What are you seeing that works?
Yeah, I mean, there's sort of two sides to the coin, right? There's AI startups that need to tell their story, which is a lot of where I spend my time. But then there's also how startups are using AI to tell their story. And the biggest thing I'm seeing is that it's increasing the speed of iteration so much. And so you want to test a new idea. You used to have to get your designer maybe to work on something, work on a bunch of copy, get a bunch of approvals. It would take a while to be able to get to a place where you could iterate and actually test things. I'm finding you can create things much quicker with AI and test and learn. Now, oftentimes are those iterations production ready right out the gate? No. So you're finding more creative ways to get those in front of customers and potential customers. But it is speeding that iteration process in a significant way.
Right. Julie?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree. I think that AI is unlocking more iterations than ever before, but it's also really unleashing new levels of creativity, both for us as marketers, but also for the customers that we serve. So what I'm seeing is just like the most creative and innovative applications, like we're seeing instant search, we're seeing instant code, we're seeing just incredible innovation being unlocked right now, not only in marketing, but in the customer spaces that we get to work with.
Right. I mean, as you alluded to, Allison, I mean, it's certainly been heralded as a way to get more done with less. That's what startups care about every single day.
Yeah.
I personally wish it would not hallucinate as often as it does. You know, like when you give it a date and it tells you it's the wrong day of the week, you're like, that's a pretty fundamental thing. How do you account for that? How do you fact check when you're running a lean team and it's easy to just run fast and trust what you see on the screen? Like, how are you avoiding those mistakes? Because that's the worst thing we want is a public mistake, right?
I think we're still in a place where, in large part, we need a human in the loop on a number of these innovations. There are places where we've been able to fully automate things, but for the most part, let's say you're using ChatGPT to write social copy, you still need to check that because you wouldn't want to be accountable for putting something out in the world that isn't true, to your point. I think it gets better, though, a little bit every day. And on the design side, shout out to one of our investments, Crea. They will actually learn your brand guide and your brand style and continue to create more images in that likeness. And so that is reducing the need for human input, at least on our end.
Right.
Yeah, for us, it's a trust but verify kind of situation. So we use LLMs every day to kind of speed up, I'd say get to the 80%. Like, let's use ChatGPT to check who's coming to an event. I just organized a 1,000-person event, and it's very hard to cull through thousands of RSVPs, right? And you want ChatGPT to accelerate that whole process of preparing for your guests. But what we found was it didn't have one of our VIPs. So we knew that certain VIP was coming, and the ChatGPT generated spreadsheet didn't have those people. Yeah. And so I think that it's, to Allison's point, human in the loop. We have to trust but verify, especially when it's really important. Yeah. So planning an event for VIPs and people that you don't know, you just want to make sure that you have the absolute, the trustworthy source of data.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, talking about getting more done with less, if you kind of look at the money side of this, like, are we seeing data that's showing us that it's saving us money? Is it costing us money? Salesforce has obviously done a big push with Agentforce, and yet it's not able to sell all of those, deals that it's making. Apparently, of 5,000 deals, 3,000 were paid for. The earnings were slightly down. Like, how is it shaping up? I mean, is it saving you from hiring somebody? Like, where are things at in that front?
Yeah, it feels like we're heading in that direction. And I think as a marketer, I take notice of, I think it was Microsoft who recently said that over the coming years, they plan to involve in their hiring process a question around, could this job be done by AI? And actually reduce their headcount forecasts over time as a result of that question being in there, and really looking for ways to use AI rather than hiring people unnecessarily. I don't think we're seeing this massive sort of like layoff situation yet with AI. I don't think it's there yet, but certainly I've thought about, for example, hiring another designer as a freelancer to augment my in-house designer, and that's not something we need thanks to AI. So I think it's making inroads in that respect. But if you look at other industries outside of marketing, for example, customer support, one of our companies, Decagon, has seen the types of results where people are able to make massive changes in their customer support organization as a result of AI. And so as AI gets more and more intelligent, theoretically, and certainly that's what we hope for as investors, you'll be able to see more of a step change in those headcount needs.
I mean, I think that right now, what's important to me when I'm looking to grow my team, because AI can do so much for me, I'm looking for the best talent. So almost like an executive producer or someone with a great sense of taste about the content. Maybe it's someone that really understands the domain. They can really play more of a director role, right? As marketing agents come online, as these models get smarter and smarter, we need the best people that can actually guide the AI and work with them, right? And so I'm not looking necessarily to have the least number of people. I'm looking to have the best marketers possible to partner with super intelligent marketing AI.
So it kind of powers them up. Yeah.
Yeah, and certainly, like the other piece of this, right, is marketing strategy, where I think on marketing execution, AI can be a great speed machine that helps you iterate faster, as we talked about before. But if you don't know what your messaging and positioning is, if you don't understand the competitive landscape, if you don't really understand what the narrative out there in the broader world around the space that you play in, AI can't solve that for you. And so execution without strategy, it doesn't help anyone.
Right, and 100%. I mean, I think that's a very common problem that we see startups when they get going, is that they rush to tactic. Like, I have to get something done without the strategy. And so, the next topic I wanted to touch on, and you touched on that earlier, Julie, is creativity in marketing. I mean, we've all been around like a lot of B2B in the Valley with startups, and I, for one, would always love to see more creativity. I think there's a little bit of a, the innovation and the creativity comes from the engineers and what they're inventing, but I always think there's room for us to really add to that. And yet, I was listening to Neil Patel earlier, who's talking about SEO, digital marketing, like content. He ran a very substantial test, and content created by humans performed 5.44 times better than content created solely by GenAI. So how are you handling that? Like, and where are you seeing, if you feel like it's unleashing creativity, how is that actually happening?
Yeah, I mean, I almost want to talk about the startup marketing playbook in this context, because I think as marketers oftentimes, or really as founders so often are attracted to say, okay, well, it worked for this company, so it'll work for me, which strips the creativity out of the process in such a meaningful way. And so I work with a lot of AI startups, and I'm amazed at how similar their messaging and positioning is. Their websites often look the same. They're black background with a rotating shape of some kind on the page. Their naming conventions are similar. And so I feel like there's this sort of laziness that pervades marketing, to your point, particularly in B2B. And I'm worried that there's starting to be this sort of AI playbook that doesn't allow any of those companies to distinguish themselves within a sea of same. And so I think as marketers, our responsibility is always to go ahead and understand that landscape and then do something completely different. And so that's one of the things I really admire about you, Julie, is you do such a great job curating community and making that such a central focus for the companies you work for. And I think every startup needs to have a marketing lens like that that says, what is our special sauce? What do we do that's different, unique, special, and really imbue that through every touch point. And that's something, again, AI can help you build some of those touch points, but it can't do that thinking for you.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like in this age where content, you can almost generate more content than ever before faster, right? And so the risk of that is, to your point, like it's very generic.
Right.
So what we like to do, I mean, as a startup, whether it's Cerebras or with Mosaic ML before, you really have to know your audience super well. Mm-hmm. And we design our content for those specific people, right? And that means that generic content that's AI generated is not always the best. And I find that like my challenge as a marketer is I don't like to go dark, so I want a lot of content, but then having high quality content means really connecting it back to my end user and my audience. And so that's where my team, these wonderful humans that I get to work with every day, we look at this content. We have a content review. And sometimes even our CEO is involved because he's actually quite a good marketer. And we look at it and we go, is this post really going to break through? And then sometimes people will say, that just seems so AI generated. I feel like I see that everywhere. And then we just discard the post. We're like, okay, guys, we're not going to do that. Let's go back to the drawing board and with AI, come up with something much more creative, much more focused, much more bespoke.
So, I mean, Julie, on your team, is someone starting the post from scratch, or is AI starting the post for you and then you add in the human layer?
Yeah, I mean, we use AI. We're very much, it depends. On a deeply technical post, like today, this is actually the most deep tech product I've ever marketed. And I've been working about 10 years in the silicon industry. Used to work at Intel. I was the first Intel AI marketer. This right here is like 100 times faster than NVIDIA GPU. That's crazy, right? So when we're making a performance claim against NVIDIA, as we did today when we shared that we're faster than NVIDIA at Maverick, at serving Maverick, that's not an AI-generated post. Not even a single word in today's announcement was generated by AI.
Is that ironic at all? Or?
I mean, it's just too deep. The technology needs to be handled by experts. But derivative posts, like when we come up with follow-up, like amplification content, hey, like take this press release, take this blog, and maybe apply the tone of somebody that we respect in the community, then it might generate like 10 different options. Again, volume, right? Volume and quality are the two levers.
Testing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the holy grail for every startup, anyone out there, is product market fit. Can I find people who want to buy what I'm selling? Is AI going to help that? Is it going to escalate that process? Like, have you seen any examples of that?
I feel like PMF at most of the early stage startups I work for is, again, just a series of experiments until you find the thing that works. And so if anything that speeds your time to failure and ultimately then your time to success is a powerful lever. And so as far as AI can help you iterate faster and get landing pages up quicker and work on content faster, I think that it has the potential to be helpful, but it can't replace the core ideas for what to create.
I think that right now our customers are using AI, so they're using Cerebras to test product market fit with the rapid iteration that Allison mentioned. Like one customer is Perplexity, right? So they have used Cerebras to create a special high-speed version of their product that they're testing, right? Like Perplexity regular versus Perplexity delivering more intelligent answers faster to the end user. A/B test, right? So I think that there's just this kind of push to create like new types of product experiences, and marketers are going to be marketing those experiences, and we're all just going to be accelerating what we see in market as a result of AI.
Let's talk for a second outside of AI, real world experiences. Julie, I know you mentioned you just hosted a big event. Like, how important is that still? I mean, we're all here in person today. Like, should startups be really thinking about like physical events where they can meet and greet and talk? And
I mean, as a venture firm, our marketing strategy is very dependent on in-person connection. You have to know people in order for them to consider you someone they'd want to partner with when they found a company at the earliest stages. And so we host about 110 events a year as a firm, which is sort of a crazy number. Shout out, Liz and Catherine, who run that whole program. God bless them. It's a lot of work. But I do think, particularly post-COVID, in that world, you do see people craving in-person connection more, and the depth that brings to the relationship. But I don't think that means you should ignore digital channels either. Unfortunately, at this point, we really live in an always-on world. And like, I just started a podcast, Attention Shift. It's got 3 episodes out now, more to come, but it's about communications and marketing and the industry. But there's already been inbound demand for a meetup around the podcast from past guests. And so I do think like everything you do can ultimately become surround sound, but its purest expression is often an in-person experience that's very tangible.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of seeing people in real life. This is just like an incredible experience, but you can't do this all the time, right? So we have one annual conference that we put our heart and soul into. For Cerebras, we just had our biggest in-person event in San Francisco, and we drew together about 1,000 people. And it was just like a very special thing to bring 1,000 people, humans. I'm so grateful to everyone that took time to join us for about 6 hours.
Yeah.
Everyone's busy. But ultimately, time is more valuable than money these days, in my opinion. And when you can gather people in 3D, like everybody here, you're taking your time to sit here and listen to us, I'm so honored. There's something very powerful, I think, in the real life experience and the connection we can make together.
Okay, we have 2 minutes left, so you get a minute each. In a sentence, biggest impact you think AI will have on startup marketing, and what's the one tool people should rush to use?
Biggest impact, first I'll give a quick rant, which is I think every startup wants to be an AI startup, but make sure you're actually an AI startup if you make that claim and really be thoughtful about it. But biggest impact I think it will make on startup marketing, again, is the ability to generate anything you can imagine really quickly and just start to get a feel for it and play around with it, where before that process might take a long time. And then what was the second follow-up?
Favorite tool?
Oh, Crea. Crea, definitely, for design. Our designer says it's saving her life.
Right.
I mean, I feel like the biggest impact of AI, it's going to force all of us marketers to just up our game, right? Like, we are really going to have to bring the best of our creativity, the best of our empathy for our users to create content that really breaks. It just breaks through, because there's going to be so much AI generated that it's going to be the best of the human elements, our empathy, our creativity, our love for the end user, that really differentiates the best marketers and the marketing that kind of stands apart. My favorite tools for marketing, I mean, I use all the channels, so the social networks. So LinkedIn, love what they're doing. I use that a lot to reach the business audience. I use X. I use all the Reddit platforms. Canva, Figma. We cannot live without Figma.
Yeah.
Right? Are these AI? Not really, but they're becoming enhanced with AI.
Exactly.
So just like, let's keep going.
Right. Well, my biggest hope is that it allows us to use our brains more, and to your point, be more strategic, more creative, and less bogged down in the day-to-day dross.
Less tactics, more strategy for our roles, which I think is a win for all of us.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, I think we've brought it in, so thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thank you.